Welcome to Been There, Watched That. I'm Justin. I'm here with Dave and Joe, and this is a new series, spin-off. We realized we're going into movies and some pop culture things a little more than we wanted to on the Help Desk with Joe. Check that out if you haven't. That's a podcast where Joe gives tips on technology and runs down different news items with the latest in technology. So welcome, guys. Welcome to the spin-off series where today we're going to be discussing the social dilemma.
Yeah, and that's a great point, Justin. The pop culture and kind of coming back and reviewing things that people might have missed or maybe you didn't realize they wanted to look at again. As we were talking in one of our other podcasts that, it's kind of a cool little caveat of getting back to some of the stuff that we like to talk about, making it official. So podcast number one, kind of crazy. Number one podcast here.
Yeah, I feel I kind of appreciate us doing this, and I feel better because always before Dave and I would make these movie references, and like Kel and all these other kids just sit there with the deer in the headlight look and have an idea of like, I have no idea what you're talking about, and Dave and I are just dying laughing, and they're just like, you're old, you don't know what you're talking about. So now at least the three of us are in the same age range. We know a lot of the same catchphrases and movie trivia, so we know what we're talking about here.
Yeah, so interesting stuff. So Justin, give us the rundown. What are we going to talk about? You hinted at it, social dilemma, but start us off, man. How it works and what we're doing, I guess.
Yeah, well, we all agreed to sit down and watch Social Dilemma, and upcoming episodes. Maybe somebody will have an idea for a totally different movie or TV show, whatever you want to watch. And we just now came up with a rating system. Hopefully, we don't watch too many that will fall into the burnt popcorn rating, which Dave decided that was for 1-star reviews. But then we'll do small, medium, large, and then what was the last one, Joe?
Mop bucket, and that's a kind of a tip of the hat to our local movie theater here in Spencer, West Virginia, the Roby Theater. If you are not familiar with the Roby, do a quick Google search. It is one of the oldest operating movie theaters in America, and it's right here in the heart of Spencer. And the way the Roby works is they don't have the large bucket of popcorn. They always called it the mop bucket, and it literally looks like the size of a small mop bucket. So, and in my opinion, they had the best movie theater popcorn around ever. Yeah. So kind of a nod to the Roby on our rating system.
You could walk right up and just get some popcorn. You don't even have to go to the movie, right? Or is they still?
They have the outside pickup window, and I think the reason the popcorn's so good is that popcorn machine's at least 40 years old.
Yes,
you're right.
It's one of the old school popcorn machines
in there,
and it's got flavor built up. And I mean, don't get me wrong, they clean it. I've seen them clean it, and I had one of my friends that worked there, and his job was to clean it, and they made sure it was cleaned really well. But they don't have it anymore. But they had one of the original Coke dispensers, Coca-Cola dispensers, and it mixed syrup and the soda water from two different nozzles. And you had to take a spoon and stir it real quick before you could pass it out because it didn't always mix real well. But that's how old it was.
You can still get that.
They have that machine still?
Yeah. I was looking at their menu. I was going to the movie one time, and I saw where it said old fashioned Coke. I told Cena, I said, you have to try that, because Cena didn't grow up in Spencer, so she didn't know what she was missing with Roby Theater popcorn and the old fashioned Cokes. I said, you have to try it at least once so you can say you've had the true Roby experience.
Yeah.
My Gremlins glass.
Awesome.
So, getting in the mood. But yeah, I think to add to what Justin you were talking about. We talked about like Caddyshack, Breakfast Club, movies like that we'll go back through, and I think it'll be something we can look up. Kind of, I can't remember what they called it, but where you watch the movie and then there's little tidbits and facts about it, stuff we can kind of rewatch.
Yeah, Dave, you knew that I like to go out and golf sometimes. Sometimes I get frustrated with it, but I still like to go. And he said, "Oh, you never seen Caddyshack?" And I'm like, you know what? Yeah. I do need to see that. Everyone's seen Caddyshack. I need to go check it out.
Yeah. Okay, well, that's what we'll do. So let's get into this here with Been There and Watch That tag and talk about the social dilemma. Which one of us wants to start off first?
Well, I had the synopsis if you guys want me to give a quick rundown on that.
Yeah, run it down, man. Heck yeah.
So the Social Dilemma is a documentary that explores the dangerous human impact of social networking, with tech experts sounding the alarm of their own creations.
You know, and that was funny to me, and I don't know how it affected you guys. And for everybody out there, we didn't pre-talk about
No.
what we were going to say or our own opinions on this until now. So you're getting it live and getting it raw.
Yep.
But to me, that was one of the craziest parts of this movie, was that the people that kind of created this problem are the ones that realize it, but yet can't stop. I mean, that's where the world's going.
Yeah.
So they can't stop what they're doing, but they know it's bad.
Yeah, it is. The monster Frankenstein has gotten too big and powerful for them to handle.
Yeah. Now, a lot of them had changed jobs and were doing different things to try to stem it, or at least what I felt like they were trying to morally validate what they were doing. But they still knew they were creating a monster, and that was their job. And that was, where technology was going. So that was an interesting thing.
Right.
Yeah, it kind of surprised me as I was watching, just light bulbs started going off in my head. It's like, okay, that explains why this, that, and the other's been going on. For example, I have Snapchat on my phone. I hardly never use it, but I just left it on my phone in case I ever need it.
Oh, come on now, Joe. We know you do the streets.
Yeah. So every once in a while, I would get a notification from Snapchat that says, hey, so-and-so's on Snapchat now, say hello. I'm thinking, I don't use Snapchat. I don't care.
Right.
And one of the things that the documentary talks about is the whole point behind notifications is
Yep.
it's told, kind of sold to you as it's for your convenience so you can keep tabs on other things. But in reality, it's kind of that little kid hollering, hey, look at me, look at me, look at me. I'm here, I'm here, I'm here. Just so you can go, hey, I got to see what's going on. And you're kind of trained in your head to going, okay, when I get that notification, I got to go see what this is about and see what's going on. And so you're just kind of trained, kind of like Pavlov's dog of, oh,
Yeah, you're trained.
The bell dings, I'm going to salivate.
Well, let me give you some facts here about it. I looked this up online, obviously, but a 5,000 person study found that the higher social media use correlated with self-reported declines in mental and physical health, and also overall life satisfaction. So that's a pretty decent sized study. I mean, obviously not the size that we need for the amount of people that use social media. So that's just a drop in the bucket, but it's enough to show significant impact. So it's a validated study. And then it also talked about a democracy dilemma, that the number of countries with political disinformation campaigns has doubled in the past 2 years. And that's from 2019. So that's 17, 18, and 19, countries putting out their own disinformation campaigns to sway the people. And then, of course, discrimination dilemma. 64% of the people who joined extremist groups on Facebook did so because the automatic algorithms steered them there. And that's one of the big things that's kind of crazy to me, and we can discuss. So I'll pose this question to you two. If you subscribe to like a newsletter or a specific channel or Facebook page that has, either left or right or whatever view, have you noticed yourself that you're getting more recommendations or more news stories from those particular groups, or is that something you don't notice at all?
Actually, I have, and I'll go into I'll let Justin respond, and then I want to dig into that topic a little deeper, because just in my research in the last couple of weeks, even right before the election, and then even what I found out getting everything set up here, it was really eye-opening. So Justin, have you noticed that, where if you like a page or make a comment or whatever, you start to see just a slow trickle or maybe even possibly a flood of content very similar to what your likings are?
Well, I'd say YouTube is where I was seeing things that they were talking about in this movie, and then thinking back, oh yeah, I recognize that from my own experience. Not so much with Facebook, just because I don't check it very often. But yeah, I've noticed scrolling through YouTube, sometimes it seems like just some weird video will be in there, and I can that I think in the Social Dilemma they were talking about, that outrage sells, or gets way more clicks than, calm conversation or whatever. But so, yeah, sometimes I'll scroll through and see something where it seems like they want me to be a little bit worked up about something and click on it. But usually I just keep going by. But it's just kind of, you do notice it, like, it seems like maybe they were trying to get me to get upset about somebody else's views that might be different than my own.
Yeah, it doesn't necessarily have to be right, wrong, or indifferent. As long as it strikes a nerve with you to make that click, they have you.
Yeah.
And since you asked that, Joe, I went on my YouTube page, logged in on YouTube. And it's funny, I must not go any particular direction, which makes sense. But I have a Colbert video, CNBC, MSNBC, Fox Business, and I don't know, The Hill maybe. I'm not sure what that one is. But I have all those as recommendations. So I'm pretty
they said
spread out.
70% of YouTube's viewing is done by just people clicking on what it recommends you next. People don't necessarily, for the most part, go on to watch a specific thing, or they might start there, but then all the rest of the views are coming from just new stuff being generated and given to you.
Yeah. So Joe, go ahead. Now that we know that, Joe, you go ahead and give your synopsis of what you found.
Okay, so I found this really interesting when it comes to social media and politics. That's been the big thing with this last election. And what I found really interesting is Twitter and a little bit of Facebook. They've really gotten some hot water like a week or two right before the election over censorship of the news media.
Yeah.
And I don't remember if it was, I think it was the New York Post. I think it was the New York Post. They had posted a story about Joe Biden's son doing some questionable business activity with China. So the New York Post, one of the most highly recognized newspapers across America, posted this story and went to Twitter and posted a link, said, hey, here's what we found. Twitter went as far as not only deleted the tweet, but blocked the New York Post account and said, hey, you're possibly posting fake news. We're going to block you. And it was in the New York Post in their article said, here's how we found the information. Here's the information. I mean, did their due diligence to say, hey, here's what we found. This isn't fake news. Did that. But yet when it came to President Trump's tax information, it just blew up on Twitter. And, whether you had information right, wrong, or different, it just flew off the shelves. But yet when the New York Post had facts behind their story, which is rare in news media nowadays, that Twitter stepped in and said, no, you can't do that. And we're going to put you time out. And Senator Ted Cruz called him out on it and had a conference call with the CEO of Twitter. And I'll try to keep it as family friendly as I can. But he said, who in the world, but he didn't say world, do you think you are that put you in charge of filtering content and saying can and can't see? He said, this isn't some conspiracy theorists, some nut job out here posing as saying that this is true. This is an actual news media format that actually did their due diligence, proved what they're saying, and you're stepping in and saying, hey, you can't talk about this.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
And I'm not.
I say part of that, though, is that's capitalism. Twitter owns it. They can do what they want to do. Don't chop there.
Right. I mean, and before anybody jumps on the bandwagon saying, "Oh, this is the Trump guy talking this, that," I'm not trying to get in the middle of all that. I'm just saying it is rather interesting where one social media platform kind of skews one way or the other. When in reality, they should be kind of in the middle. So everybody can say what they want, but as long as I'm making my buck, it doesn't matter, kind of deal.
Yeah.
Well, Facebook's kind of been accused of the same thing, leaning a little against certain groups, maybe that are more conservative in how they're represented on Facebook and stuff. They've gotten some blowback a little bit from some groups that are upset on that side too.
Yeah. So but to the social dilemma cause of that is like you were talking, Joe, you hinted at it a little bit earlier. They have the scenes that continually pop up where they have the three guys, the artificial intelligence part of it, where they constantly seek and use techniques to draw you back to social media.
Mhm.
And
Right.
it's kind of trial and error. And then once they find something that works, then they double down on that effort to keep you engaged. And, those are all tactics that these places are using.
Right.
And I found that interesting. I really liked how they did it. At first, I was kind of like, well, that's kind of cheesy. But then after the movie went on, I was like, wow, I can kind of see that. And I don't use Twitter or Instagram. I have an Instagram account, but I don't check it very often. I don't even know I think I do have Twitter, but I haven't checked it for years. So I don't watch any of that, but I can see how that would be the realistic way that it plays out. And I thought they portrayed that really well. What do you guys think? Did you like that? Not like it? What was your opinion on those three guys?
Yeah, I liked it. I thought I kind of agree with you. At first, you're like, maybe this is being a little bit over the top, but then when you realize they're just those three guys are kind of a stand-in to let you think about what a computer's doing, and it's just doing it automatically. It's not sitting around saying, literally, we have to get them engaged, but at the same time, the code is designed to keep you engaged. So it's kind of doing the same thing.
I mean, and if people aren't familiar, the code is an if-then situation. If you get this response, then you do this. So if you get a yes response, you add more of that content. If you get a no response, then you try different content. And that's all it is. So the computer is working like that, but they kind of humanized it, which I thought was interesting because I know a lot of people like to have AI and they make it seem like, oh, well, it's making artificial intelligences are making these, I don't know, judgmental or subjective. You could go either way, really. Opinions, but it's not opinions. It's just if-then statements and basing it off of the reaction it gets and the answer it gets is where it goes next.
Yep.
So I don't know.
And
humanizing it was an interesting idea.
And kind of putting you into a box of you're kind of like these other people that are really into the same sort of things as you. So you'll probably like what 10 million other people have said they like. So kind of grouping you in with those groups as well. Like,
yeah. Joe, what about you? Did you find that good or bad?
I found it very interesting. I'm right in the same boat with you guys. At the beginning, I thought, oh, that's kind of cheesy. I mean, it's one of those, yeah, I understand why they're doing that, but it's a little cheesy. And then the more you watch, the more that you dug into it, and the more they reference back to it, it's like, yeah, that's spot on. It makes perfect sense. And here is one quote I found in the movie that kind of sums up the way all AI works. Is if you're not paying for the product, you're not paying for a Facebook subscription, Instagram, Twitter, you are the product. If you're not paying for the product, you are the product. And it's like, whoa, that's an eye opener right there.
And the movie had a big section on that, just about that. And they kept reinforcing it. And at first I was just like, yeah, I mean, I get that. But then the more they said it and the more they used examples as to how that truly works, the more it scared me as far as, wow, we are being utilized as the product in these scenarios.
Yeah, just for people that haven't seen it, we've been talking about these three guys. What we're basically talking about is, I think it's the son of the family. He decides he's going to not use his phone for a week or whatever it is. So then they kind of zoom in on these three guys, which represent the computer algorithm out there of different social media platforms that are trying to get you to use. So the guys are saying, wait, what's going on? He's not engaging. We got to get him re-engaged. So that's kind of what they're just representing, these programs that.
And it was like, well, let's hit him with this. And they would send him a little, like Joe, like you mentioned, a little notification. So-and-so's on at this time.
Something he didn't ask for at all. Yeah.
Yeah. And they used his wannabe girlfriend, the girl that he was interested in, as a target. And they're like, hey, he's viewed her profile several times in the last couple of weeks. And then they sent him a little, hey, whatever her name was, Janet's online right now, say hi. Yeah. And he was like, he was in class with her and he looked at it and he's like, oh yeah, I could say hi. And then he sent her a message and they're like, yeah, that's working. Let's hit him with more of that. And so, it's kind of crazy.
And after you see all that, I'm sitting there thinking to myself, like, yeah, I'm guilty of all that. And Facebook, I have noticed within the last couple of weeks, has really picked up their game. Like, I get just the weirdest notifications of saying so and so has commented on so and so's post. I'm going,
Yeah.
yeah, both these people are on my friends list, but I don't stay in constant contact with these people. So why should I care if he is commenting on her, or, on her post or whatever? I mean, it's one of those, I don't care. But yeah, I still find myself, just to get rid of that notification, hitting it and just looking at it. And it's like, it's one of those, I know why it's
So
doing that, but
even
yeah,
after you've seen the movie, you still follow the link?
at times I catch myself. It's one of those just kind of habit. I just do it before I even realize. And then as soon as I do it, the movie replays through my head. It's like, yeah, you just suckered yourself into that. Why they're doing that, but yet you still just fall right in line.
Oh, Joe. Oh,
Well, the people in the movie, they're these folks that had a view behind the curtain. They know all this stuff, but they're being interviewed and they're saying, I couldn't stop using this or that app.
Yeah.
I had a Twitter addiction. I had to,
Yeah.
The one guy's like, I still do. I know I do it, but I still do it.
Yeah, I couldn't take it into the house with you. Got to leave your phone in your car, and just all these steps trying to wean yourself off it. And yeah, the folks that should know better, I guess, not to let it get out of control. They still let it get that way.
Yeah, and they've talked about it being an addiction. And another little tagline that they made in the movie, which makes kind of fits perfectly. It said, there's two types of people that refer to their customers as users: tech companies and drug dealers.
Yeah, and that's a scary tagline, because it's true. And we often don't think of it that way, that, drug use is an addiction that's very similar to technology addiction. And when you think about that, it gets scary in a hurry, because everybody's like, oh man, once you get and we tell that to kids, we tell that to our communities. Once kids get hooked on drugs, or young adults, then it's so hard to get them out of that. But yet with technology, parents give their 3-4-year-olds tablets to entertain themselves. They use it as babysitters, and then they get frustrated later when they're addicted to the technology, and that's all they want to do. And they're like, wait a minute, I've created a monster here. But it's so eerily similar. And when the movie pointed that out, it kind of scared me. And I was like, holy cow, that's a rough way to look at this technology that we just love. I don't think enough people see it in the same context, but yet all the characteristics line up with drug usage.
And it's kind of eerily similar to, like, it will mess with your emotions. The one thing they talked about it being an addiction and a manipulation tool. And personally, when COVID started, everybody was staying at home, and you had to find something to occupy your time.
Yeah.
And I literally caught myself on Facebook more, scrolling through, and there was just so much bad news on Facebook. There was absolutely nothing positive. I mean, you'd have to dig for days to find any good news, between the conspiracy theories and the COVID part itself and this, that, and the other. I mean, I literally found myself, not getting a deep depression, but I mean, I could tell my new mood would change being on Facebook or social media in general when COVID started, that I actually just kind of cut myself off for several days. It's like, I can't deal with this. I don't need it. There's enough craziness going on. I don't need this ruining my mood. And I would literally I'd stayed off social media for about a week. And honestly, I felt better being off of it than being on it, just keeping the nonsense and the noise out of my space.
Yeah, and it's a crazy deal. Is there anything else that either of you got from, like, an introspective look into your own usage? And I know, Joe, that's a great example. You actually had to wean yourself off Facebook a little bit. What about you, Justin? Is there anything that after seeing this, you're kind of like, oh man, I got to look at myself and what I do to change a little?
One thing that resonated with me, they talked about when you refresh the feed, say on YouTube, you're just kind of like hoping somebody else is going to entertain you. Like, instead of, I've noticed that days when I'm really bored or don't really have anything to do, days just getting sucked into the YouTube wormhole and then feeling like, man, that was not a great use of time. And it's nothing that was It's just like the next video that seemed interesting enough to watch just to waste time, basically. Not something I sat down and said, you know what, I really need to look up this particular video. It's just like, I don't even know what I want. Just give me something to keep me, which is similar to channel surfing, I guess. But yeah, that did resonate with me when he said, it's like you're playing like a slot machine. Every time you flick that to get a new set of videos, you're hoping you're gonna get that hit, get something that's gonna interest you.
Yeah, looking for something to just keep you engaged with.
Yeah,
something. And it's funny. There's a book if anyone's interested. Johann Hari, and it's Johann, I think, and then Hari. He has several books. One's Chasing the Scream, which is about drug addiction, and the other one is Lost Connections. And a Lost Connection one is just phenomenal. It's scary, phenomenal, but it talks about sort of what this. The Social Dilemma didn't go this far, but it's headed that direction, I think, for me anyway. And the Lost Connections was how loneliness, anxiety, well, it starts with anxiety, loneliness, and depression are all linked. And the fact that people have less face-to-face connection leads to anxiety, loneliness, and depression. And the anxiety part was exactly this with social media, that people have to look at their social media. And I'll grab my phone for this one. And it's every time the little dinger goes off, you got to look at it, and or whatever you use to notify yourself that something's went off. And just the fact that people set their phones where they can constantly see them, or have them on them where they can constantly feel them. And I got to tell you, back probably 3 or 4 years ago, I started having not issues or anything. I started noticing that I would think my phone vibrated in my pocket, even when I didn't have it with me. And I'd check my pocket to say, "Ooh, did I just miss something?" And I wouldn't even have my phone with me. And I was like, man, that is messed up. So I turned my vibration off because, and and for me, it wasn't like social media stuff. It was work stuff. I'd get home in the evenings, and I got to where I had to just put my phone on a shelf and go do chores on the farm without my phone, because it was weird. I would just be like, man, I think my phone went off. And I was like, I don't even have it with me. That's craziness. But that's kind of the introspective I had from this Social Dilemma movie, was that, you get hooked on it, and then you can't get yourself out of it. And that's a rough one. So I had to just leave my phone when I got home and did home stuff. But
yeah, they talk about binge watching. I mean, that's not a term that's kind of associated with alcohol abuse and that same concept of people saying, "Oh, I'm addicted to this new show."
Yeah.
It's like in the language already. Yeah.
Yeah, it's something that we've picked up that we never gave any thought of. Yeah, I binged watch The Office or whatever last night, and before all this, if you told somebody that you sat down and watched 4 episodes of a show one night, they'd look at you like you was crazy. Yep. But now you say, "Hey, I binged watched The Office last night."
A whole season, yeah.
Yeah, somebody will come up and say, "Well, if you like The Office, you need to watch this." So we're, as users, we're just as bad of kind of feeding the beast as like, "Oh yeah, you like this? Well, you need to check this out too."
That is so true. I talked to one of my friends yesterday, and it's ironic you bring that up, Joe. Talked to him yesterday, and they're like, "Well, what kind of?" And they know that I haven't watched TV for, I don't know, 6 or 7 months. You had me watch Pluto TV a little bit just to do a review on that. But they're like, "You haven't watched TV, man. What did you watch?" And I was like, "Well, Brooklyn Nine-Nine, The Office." I got to where I was watching The Office, and then I was like, "Oh, Stranger Things." We binge watched Stranger Things when it came out, because by the time we watched it, they just dropped season 2, so we had to binge watch season 1. And the first thing they said, Joe, was, "Ooh, you got to binge watch the Mandalorian." Is that right?
Mandalorian.
There you go. Like, "Oh, if you like that, you'll like Mandalorian. You got to go watch it, and you got to just binge watch it." I was like, "What are you talking about?" And I didn't even know what they were talking about. And they're like, "Oh, Baby Yoda, you'll love it if you."
Yeah.
And I was like, how in the world did Stranger Things binge watching tie to the Mandalorian? But what it was, and it's just what you said, Justin, the term binge watching, because if you'll sit down and binge watch one, my friend thought surely you'll like to binge watch another, regardless of whether they're related or even alike. But so anyway, and they went so far as message me their Disney Plus information. Like, here, I know you don't have Disney Plus or anything. Here's mine. Just go and watch Mandalorian or Mandalorian.
Mandalorian.
I'll get it right. Mandalorian. There you go. Sorry. And they're like, yeah, and then we can talk about it. I was like, I'm not watching TV, but hey, thank you. Anyway, so you're right though, Justin, and and Joe, both of you binge watching. Wow. That catches people's attention, gives them something to talk about. And it was almost a pride thing. They were like, yeah, I binge watched it. Yeah. And you binge watched it. So let's binge watch something and we'll talk about it. I was like,
phew. Yeah, it's like, it's kind of hard to think of other things to talk about sometimes. I noticed there's one point I'm like, man, it seems like every time I give my dad a call, we end up at some point talking about a show. And I'm like, I got to try to think of some other things to talk about. It just doesn't seem like if we're just talking about what we've watched recently, there's got to be more to life than talking about some movie we watched, which is fun. It's fun to have that too, but you got to kind of balance it out.
Well, golf season's kind of over now that winter's
Right.
hit, so you got to have something to talk about.
Yeah, just stare at each other.
That's funny.
So,
All right,
we've been
well,
watching. Yep.
Yep. back to the social dilemma. Is there anything we missed on that as far as describing it or talking about it, or anything you guys feel like we kind of left out? I don't know. I almost think it was purposeful though, that they showed the son and the family getting drawn towards, an extremist group. And I think that was a scare tactic just to show how serious it can be. But I almost feel like maybe that would be very true as well. I don't know. What do you guys think?
I liked how they referenced the police reference when the police showed up to the
protest or whatever.
Protest. Thank you. That kind of resonated with what's been going on, the past year with the defund the police and all that nonsense. Like, okay, so they didn't show the people and the protesters, causing all this ruckus. They waited until the cops showed up and started throwing people to the ground and then decided to hit the record button. They didn't show the people, causing chaos before the police got there. They waited till the police showed up and then just hit record at the right time. Say, look, all we was standing here being peaceful protesters and the police came in and start harassing us. So then, that starts feeding into the people of, yeah, let's get rid of the police, all this, that, and the other. And it shows just how easy it is to just take one simple clip like that and edit it just right. And you have a bunch of people jumping on the bandwagon without people doing their homework and due justice, saying, hey, let's look at the whole picture. That, going back to what Justin was talking about earlier, we're striking that nerve where just that one small clip can either sway you one way or the other if it's done properly.
Yeah. And I'll throw out three things for you that I feel like were big parts of the movie. And monetization, they kept coming back to that what you said earlier, one of you said earlier that, if there is no product, you're the product. And that's definitely a true statement in all sense of the word. But it showed how everything in social media is about money. It's about monetization. They need to keep you engaged. They need to sell those ads. They need to show those clicks. Number two is manipulation, how the system manipulates you to continue to be drawn back in. And then number three is the unstoppable addiction that, it's kind of crazy. And I feel like we're discussing a movie that we know is bad on a platform that is the problem. So we, in turn, as far as this documentary is concerned, are part of the problem. I mean, we're essentially went through the process of, hey, let's do this because we think people will like it and because we like it, and put it on a platform. And now we're going to try to, we're not necessarily selling it, but we want people to like it. I want people to watch this and say, man, that's cool. I want to see more. I want to come back next week and see next week's. So we're essentially part of that problem that we know is a problem that we're talking about.
Yep.
I've had that exact thought in my head the whole time. Of course, we kind of joked about this before we even started it. We was talking about what should we do first, and then Justin said, let's do the social dilemma. Then after watching, it's like, well, now we can't do the show because we're feeding
We're
into
there.
the
This is us.
Yeah.
But
now,
okay.
but I did a little reference point. with social media and teenagers,
Hmm.
there has been a huge spike in teenage suicides, and a lot of it associated with social media.
Yeah.
And a lot of parents, I'm thankful that Sadie is young enough that we don't have to worry about it at this point, but it scares me to death to think that someday she's going to be at that age to social media is going to be part of her life, that cyberbullying.
Mhm.
And there's actually a movie called Cyberbully, and it's about this teenage girl who she starts a social media account and starts getting cyberbullied, and kind of find out it was one of her friends that was actually being the cyberbully. But the effects of it, because most parents weren't raised with social media, school bullies has always been there, but it's one of those, when you go to school, yeah, you got to deal with it, but when you come home, home was your safe place, that you didn't have to deal with this stuff. Well, now this bullying stuff follows you home. There is no escape. When you leave school and you go home, the bullies literally follow you home and blow your phone up through social media. So there's literally there's no break in the noise and the stress and the pain.
Yeah. And I see that as two ways, Joe, because we've been through where I work, we've been doing cyberbullying and trainings for a long time. And as a parent, the easiest thing is don't let your child have social media until they get old enough to be able to be responsible and able to handle it. And I know
Absolutely.
that's hard for parents. And we've had that talk with parents before. They're like, well, you shouldn't, the conversation would come up as far as, well, you shouldn't allow this or that. And I'm like, you just gave them $1,000 phone where they can look at porn. They can have access to any type of stuff they want, and be able to contact someone. And and I was like, catfishing, that's a real thing, especially for younger kids, that predators do. You just enabled them to be accessible to child predators, and they're always like, what, they can look at porn? I'm like, yeah, you just gave them handheld access to do that. You need to be knowledgeable. But the problem is, parents in my generation just often don't grasp the overall concepts of how cell phones have been a game changer, and what that allows access for their kids to have access to, and allows other people to access their kids. It's like the Snapchat location deal. A kid posts on there, they're home by themselves, a 10-year-old. Hey, I just got home. Parents aren't home. Go do a TikTok video or whatever. That's an open door for a child predator to look at their Snap location and say, oh, now I know where they live. Now I know they're home by themselves. Okay. So kind of crazy, but.
Yeah, that's one of the things Cena and I are very cautious of. Is one thing is from the parents' side. Parents post a lot of pictures of their kids, especially younger kids.
Mm-hmm.
Cena and I, we go out of our way to be extra cautious on what we post as far as pictures of Sadie and stuff like that. We don't post a lot of it, and we have a lot, and a lot of family members come up to both of us, say, why don't you post more pictures of Sadie? We'd love to see Sadie. And honestly, I would love to be one of those parents that post literally every picture of Sadie that I take, I put on social media, to the point where people's going, okay, that's enough, that's too much. But our work at the courthouse with the prosecutor's office and the sheriff's office, we see a lot of what happens if you do that. A lot of the bad stuff out of all that. So that kind of makes us a little extra cautious, to the point of saying, yeah, we'd love for our family and friends to see her, see pictures of her, but we know the bad that can come out of that, and all because of this beast called social media.
Well, let's wrap it up on that with one final introspective question. After watching this movie, before we get into the actual review or the grading, what introspective or self-realization have you two had since watching this movie? Now, I feel like I'm kind of cheating in this one, because I was already off of TV. I'd cut the cord, didn't have TV, haven't been watching TV so this was one of the first things I watched, and I made my kids sit down and watch it with me, because I don't have a TV here in our house that we use to watch TV. But so like I say, I feel like I'm jaded in my opinion. But what are your all's opinions as far as Did you have any introspective or self-realization that's come about, and have you changed anything since watching this movie about yourself?
Want to go ahead, Joe?
Okay. Yeah, honestly, like I said, when I started watching it, a lot of the light bulbs started going off, and it was funny. I was taking notes on my phone as I was doing it, and then so if I wasn't taking notes, I'd set my phone down. And during the movie, my phone literally dinged, and I caught myself picking it up. And it was my sister had sent me a message, so I literally caught myself stopping the movie, messaged her, set my phone back down. But after watching it, I have literally had the thought of when my phone dings and I pick it up and I see that it's like a Facebook notification saying, hey, you know, this friend comment on this friend's post. Yeah, I admit that there are times that I'll click on it just to get rid of it. But I've also found myself stopping and thinking, hey, they're doing this on purpose to get you back in there. And I'll just swipe it away, like, nope, not falling for the trap this time, and just swipe it away and moving on.
That's interesting that while watching the movie, you're taking notes on your phone, and then also that now that you realize it. So that's pretty cool to see.
Mm-hmm.
Justin, what about you?
Like you said, if you're not paying for the product, you are the product. I'm one of those people that has a hard time with ads. So there's been multiple different apps, like a music app, where I just couldn't take the ads anymore, and I ended up paying the $5 a month. And I just recently on YouTube switched over to I don't know if it's worth it, $15 a month for their pro no ad service. But yeah, it started to just kind of get old, being shown the same ads over and over and being shown something that you had searched the web for earlier, targeted advertising. So I just was getting kind of tired of that. And I'd kind of been off most social media way before this movie, but it kind of gave me a better understanding of maybe why I didn't like some of the notifications, like Joe was saying, by the way, this person's tagged with this person, and just kind of that. They talked about FOMO. We used to talk about that fear of missing out, that you weren't with your friends and they were tagging each other in other videos. So I don't know if it's changing a whole lot, but it does give me a better understanding of what's going on.
Well, I'll tell you from the business standpoint, looking in the advertising capabilities on social media, it is scary on how thin that line is to dwindle down to get your target audience almost to the point you can dwindle down to everything, but literally clicking, okay, I want to advertise to Dave and Justin. I mean, you can literally dwindle it down to age, gender, location within, X number of miles of your business, advertise during this certain times of day. I mean, it is scary as a business side, because I've looked into it on to advertise on social media, how particular you can be on who to advertise to. And honestly, it doesn't cost a lot of money to be able to advertise to that particular group of people. That's the thing. Your view isn't worth that as much as what you think. People think, oh, you spend, thousands of dollars on Facebook and have hundreds of people look at it. It's like, no, literally you could spend 50 and probably have 100 to 200 people in your community look at your ad.
Yeah. It's always funny. I giggle a little bit when people are like, well, I'm going to post on Facebook and this business stinks and I'm not going to shop there anymore. And I'm like, whoop-de-doo. Okay. But I think people think the social media has such a large impact for them personally, when it's the bigger picture, as you're saying. I think, that bigger picture is kind of crazy.
But there's some positives too, though. That's another thing that I thought of when I was watching it. Yeah.
Great point. What are the positives?
Well, like you mentioned a little earlier, that I was doing some work where we were filming like soccer games, middle school and high school soccer games, and
during COVID, that's huge.
As I was posting it on Facebook, I kind of checked back to make sure that footage of the game got uploaded, and just saw a grandmother said, "I really appreciate you putting this up here. I had a stroke. I mean, there's no way I can physically go to games anymore, but I appreciate that you guys put this out there so that I can see it on Facebook." So, I mean, in that one particular case, that's a positive thing for her.
I think that's huge, and I will talk a little bit about how. Can I share my screen, Joe?
I don't know. Let me see. Okay, I think Dave, at the top, if you click on beside
I think
your
I'm there. I
camera
didn't know.
microphone, if you click share content, we could possibly see your screen.
Yeah, that's why. But I think you have to give me permission.
Oh, okay. Well, let me.
Like I'm up to the SharePoint, but I think you might have to give me permission.
Okay, let me see here.
Hold on, no, maybe it's gonna let me. Okay, so you guys can see my screen now.
Yep.
Yeah, I see me.
Okay, so you're looking at the patch stuff.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes.
All right, yeah, just to give you a little idea on Justin, some context there with what you're talking about. So, Thanksgiving stuff. So this is one thing I do like, and you are 100% right. This is stuff from our daycares that we share. 672 people reached. The farm work where you're a project manager, Justin. People love to see that. The hydroponic lettuce and stuff we're growing, food we're growing. Veterans Day. Kids artwork, 1,000 people in our small community. Those are big numbers. All the lessons you video and stuff for elementary age kids, lessons with Pam, 160 people that have little kids that are wanting to do that work. Joe, 27, 60 people that recognized and liked the idea of, you helping us put the internet hub out at Reedy, which is one of our very isolated communities that doesn't have internet at all, but we were able to put that in. So that's all big stuff. A local business that helped us out with some flooring needs, 2,000 people. And here's the football game you're talking about. 343 people were reached with that, in times of COVID, couldn't go to the game, couldn't watch their grandkids, nephews, nieces, whatever. And you were able to, to go video that and put it back out online so people could watch it. Farm work, people love the farm. It's crazy how much people love, chickens. So just scroll. Hey, who's that handsome devil?
Yeah.
You talking about the farm work. So,
yeah.
A lot of farm stuff, but in our world, having, 370 some people, 400 people, hey, there's another handsome devil.
Yeah.
It's kind of crazy. So just to give you an idea of how I look at it and what good news it is, we had a computer issue and our federal data was due that day and the next day. And Joe, you came in and worked on it as part of A&M Digital Technology, the business you own. And, 1,000 people like that aspect. So, and of course, anytime you throw a baby chick out there or a chicken in general, it gets a lot of looks. So just funny stuff that, and then we have some of our students that go and video stuff. So positive stuff like crazy, 1,200 on this one. So I'll stop sharing that screen now.
Yeah, not seeing anything on that feed about this group of people are idiots or anything like that.
Yeah. Nothing negative, but you're so right that that's what keeps me where we are. The idea behind that we can share so much positive. And Joe, like you were saying, I do the same thing. We share pictures of our kids for the family members that can't get there to see them or don't see them that often. That's a huge positive. That's the only reason I'm on Facebook, honestly, is because one, my work to do that, and two, because my mom and some of our aunts and uncles that live farther away can't see my kids participate in sports, and this is a way to let them see it. It's pretty crazy. So yeah, a lot of good, even though there's that scary dark side of it. There's still a lot of good.
Hey, Dave, I don't mean to interrupt you. You may want to flip your camera back on.
Is it not on?
No. We just see a dot.
Oh yeah, when I shared the screen, it went off. Okay, I got you. I had to turn back on.
There you are.
I'm back.
Yeah, in the movie they talked about that, all the good it can do, but just recognizing there's a little bit of a other side of the coin too that you have to be aware of and think about.
Right. Yeah. Okay. Well, let's. Is there anything else you all want to add before we get on to rating this movie?
Let's rate it. Unless you have some, Joe.
I'm good. We covered a lot of ground there.
Yeah. So burnt is like a 1 star. So burnt means don't see it, avoid it at all costs. Then there's small, medium, large, and then mop bucket means it's just outstanding. And so here's what I'm going to ask, gentlemen. Give it a rating, but you have to justify why. That just stumped
geez.
Justin. Wait a minute, what? I got to justify it?
I've been thinking about it all this time, and I'm in between medium and large, and I don't really have any problems with it, so I'm going to go large. And I think they point out some important issues. I mean, we didn't mention it here, but one of the scenes that kind of stuck out to me was the young girl who was seeing how many people liked her picture, like her selfie, basically. And then at one point, somebody said, "Wow, your ears are huge," or something. And then you see that kind of play out, and you just realize that certain little things like that are going on all the time, everywhere, potentially affecting people's kids and stuff. So it's something to think about. And but overall, I thought the movie was sleek and had a lot of cool graphics and to help illustrate things, and it would switch between interviews, but then also almost like artwork and 3D stuff, and I liked it. And yeah, I'll go large. I'll go 4 stars.
Okay.
Yep.
I'm kind of with you, and Joe, not to cut in front of you, but since my views are similar to Justin's, I'm going to jump in there. I was between medium and large, honestly, and I thought it was because the concepts of how they presented it, like I really liked that they had the people that worked on the projects, like Google, Facebook, Twitter, the people that did that work and came through with that were part of this documentary. I think that gave it some substance and kind of substantiated the legitimacy of it, because those people that helped create the monster also were willing to go on camera and say, this is a monster. And I like that aspect. Now, some of the stuff was kind of cheesy, and I do agree we didn't talk about the girl, but I thought that was an extremely important aspect, because what stuck out in my mind as soon as you said that was she took the picture, somebody commented on, or she looked at it and said, "I'm not getting enough likes." So she deleted it, took another one, and then she got more likes, and then someone commented on her ears. So then she deleted it, and then it went sideways from there with her mental health based on people's validating her look, which is kind of crazy, but I know it happens. Our program working with kids will get upset about stuff like that. So anyway, so I kind of agree with you. I'm going to go with a large as well. Some of it's a little cheesy, but I think the legitimacy of the people and experts they have in there override that cheesiness. And I think that maybe the cheesiness is to help, young adults understand the aspects they're trying to show you more readily. So yeah, I'm going with a large myself, 4 star. Okay. Joseph?
Same thing. I got to echo what you guys said. It's a large popcorn for me too. I mean, it was, like you said, there were some cheesy parts to it, but the overall aspect of it, literally as I was watching it, I was going, yeah, I've done that. Yeah, I've experienced that. Yeah, that explains why that's going on. And then to see them give examples of what's been going on in society in the past year, it's like, yeah, that explains so much as why people are doing what they're doing and thinking the way they're thinking, is because social media feeds so much of that. And whether it's news or politics or anything like that, literally, if social media figures you out on what your likes and dislikes are, they're going to pump you more of that quote unquote content, regardless of it's right, wrong, or different. They know what you like. They're getting paid to pump to you what you like, and there we go. And the tagline of there are 2 types of people who refer to their customers as users are tech companies and drug dealers. I was like, that sums it up right there. Just put a bow on that, and there you go.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so good reviews then, I guess, all the way around. Any idea what we're going to do the next show, or do we just surprise them?
Let's surprise them. I've got some
Maybe,
ideas. We can talk about it.
Maybe
Go
something not quite as heavy, maybe.
Yeah. I think we go to one of our 80s movies and do something comedy related or something like that. I got Caddyshack stuck in my head, especially since you have not seen it before, Justin. Have you watched it since then?
I've just
since we talked
seen it
about
the one time, like maybe a month ago. I watched it.
Okay.
I did go out and
so you have seen it then.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. So yeah, we'll talk about that. So next show number 2, we'll have some fun stuff going on and get away from kind of this rough documentary about real life. but
Yeah,
as we stay on the platform. So
Yeah, this documentary is way too serious for us guys.
yeah. It's a good one though. So we'll start out. But yeah,
Yes.
we'll go to something fun for show number 2. All
Sorry,
right.
I just got a notification. Sorry, I had to check that.
Yeah. Well,
I heard
Justin,
the
you
little
want?
ding.
Yeah. You want to? Let's take us out of here on show number 1, man. Do the outro. You got this.
All right, great show number 1. Got Joe in the theater. He just finished watching the movie there.
Yeah.
And, Dave's in his library reading up on the different facts. But yeah, I think it was a good show. We put a lot of work into talking about the different aspects of it. And yeah, over the social dilemma gets a large popcorn from us here at Been There, Watch That.
I know it's weird with the other shows we're doing. I was like, crap, I don't even remember what we're supposed to say as we go out. Yeah, been there, watch that. Show number 1 in the books. All right, yeah.
So we also have, so if you want to check out this review and more information, visit the website beentherewatchthat.com, and be sure to check out our social media. We're on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube at, hold on, I just created all those last night and I had to go back and make sure everything was
We're so
all
new.
uniform.
We're so new. That's how it is.
Yeah. Okay. On social media, we are BTWT Pod at BTWT Pod at Been There Done That podcast, or check out the website Been There Done That, or
Been
not
There, Watch That. Yeah.
BeenThereWatchThat.com. Geez, guys, I got to get better at this.
It's the first show. You know, it'll get better. It'll get
Yeah, for anybody that's sitting here and watching this going, man, these guys are serious. They know what they're talking about. Yeah, we just killed all credibility right there.
Yeah. Right at the
better.
end.
Show number 1. They might have already tuned out by now. They're just like, yeah, I'll come back next week. See you. Hopefully that's the response.
Yeah. BeenThereWatchThat.com is the website, and at BTWT Pod for all of our social media contacts.
Awesome. All right. Well, Joe, thank you for all your hard work behind the scenes, and Justin, great job moderating this first show. And we'll be back next week, so make sure you tune in with us here. So for myself, David, and Justin and Joe, we'll see you next week.